Hello, everyone, and thank you for calling This Week in Guns, brought to you by Patriot Patch Company, VZGrips, MAF Corporation, for Patriots Foods, and Primary Arms. The show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Matthew LaRosier, and I'm joined by the Bitrate Rat.
Yeah, unfortunately, you guys haven't been beating up the Patreon well enough, and because of that, I've been forced to sell my graphics card and kidneys.
So yeah, the frame rate has dropped. If you want to increase the frame rate, you need to provide money.
Your sanity and attention span are being held hostage.
All right, next up, we have the opening of the Illinois Assault Weapons Registry. This is part of the Protect Illinois Communities Act regulation on assault weapons. As we can see here from the totally very well done, not 2001 website
This
of
website,
the Illinois State Police.
Cost the state police a couple $1 million, but it's not a big deal.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about this?
So the state police has been stipulated to publish, I guess, statistics on the compliance rates with this. And in the first week, there was I think it was 1,000 total things that were registered, but 800 of them were 50 caliber cartridges, because you have to register each individual 50 cal you have in terms of the ammo, and included in that is reloadable cases or projectiles. It's just so stupid. As well as included in that is assault weapon attachments, which is anything that could convert something to an assault weapon.
I see very helpfully here on the FAQ what assault weapon attachments are regulated, and then it says
refer to the statute, which is incredibly vague. And so there was a challenge brought to this. Oral arguments, I think, were on the 11th of October, where they were challenging challenging if the definitions in this law are unconstitutionally vague. And it was before Stephen McGlynnigan, who was the guy who granted the injunction on the constitutionality on 2A grounds already. And the questions he was asking of the state made it pretty clear which direction he was leaning when it comes to the vagueness question, because he kept asking the state, so can you say if this is or is not? And the state wouldn't give him an answer. And it's it's the state's job to prove that this is or isn't vague. And the fact that the state can't actually commit to an answer, what's the difference between a rifle mag and a handgun mag?
Right.
If you've got an AR, one's a pistol, one's a rifle. You got a 15 round mag for the rifle and a 10 round mag for the pistol. Well, the 15 round mag for the rifle would be illegal. Can't do that. But what's the difference between the magazine? It's the same exact magazine. And the state kept saying this nonsense. Oh, it's the totality of the circumstances thing, and it would be up to the prosecutor. But that's not proving the law. That's not proving that the law isn't incredibly vague. It makes no differentiation between them.
I like this one. If an FFL who owns an auction service, pawn shop, or storefront has taken an AR-15 or assault weapon into their inventory prior to the signing of the bill, can the FFL now transfer the weapon back to the previous owner? Answer, no.
I know a cop personally who had that happen to them. They were trying to sell an AR in consignment, and now it's at the gun shop still. And of course, during the injunction, I guess I could have gone and got it back, but I don't think they did, which is kind of funny. They just don't.
Unless they are subject to one of the narrow exceptions in the listed in the law itself.
Right. So if it was a cop trying to sell their duty gun, they could. But in the case of this cop that I know, it's not a duty gun, and so they aren't exempt. And I know that another thing that sort of got a bunch of the police unions, whenever they voiced their opposition to the ban, they mentioned this is, with the way the ban works, if a cop was to use... Did I lose you? He's dead. Right here. Oh, your video went away.
That's funny.
All right, we're back. So the police unions voiced their opposition to the law by saying that if a cop was to use a personal fire, because cops commonly use personal firearms in the line of duty because they want a better one or whatever. And so if they use their own personal AR and they're involved in an officer-involved shooting and the gun is taken from them, as it commonly is, they can't get it back because it would have to be transferred back to them if it was in storage. And so the police unions are all freaking out oh, this means we can't use personal guns. And I guess at least they were voicing their opposition, and I'm sitting there yeah, wow, you guys should never have given these people an inch in the first place.
What if you weren't allowed to use guns? I'm all in favor of certain types of gun control.
It's the government. We control the government's guns.
Yeah, I think the like K-frames is the start and end. That's
Well, see, here's mine. Here's my master take on this. The government can use guns that were designed by the government market, and the civilians can use guns that were designed by the civilian market. So the most modern they can go is the M14, and only sort of technically the 1911, but not really. They can use 1911s that were made by Springfield, which are like the worst ones. They can have those.
That's I'm trying to think of a handgun that was. I can't think of any. I think some of the Austrian ones, like the non-modern Austrian ones. But I digress. This is another good one. Can an Illinois FFL still purchase an assault weapon or large capacity magazine to sell out of state, such as through Gunbroker? And I like how it's like, whoever wrote this. Unless an Illinois FFL is doing business in other states and is purchasing the weapon or LCM in another state, then they cannot. Illinois FFLs are not exempt from the provisions. Accordingly, an Illinois FFL cannot take possession of an assault weapon or a large capacity magazine feeding device in Illinois.
Which itself is contradictory.
Yeah,
and it's also not exactly how the law allows a more broad set of circumstances than that little quote, which is just great.
Right, because you can take them in contemplation of sale to the government.
Right.
So it's deeply stupid, and I think that this stupid little Q&A will be very useful to the plaintiffs.
I know, they had in advance of this vagueness hearing, they had put together like a great big list of all of the stuff that they're like, oh, this defines what things are. And I know one question that came up repeatedly at the vagueness hearing was, is the SKS an AK type rifle? Because banned by name, they said that the whole list of banned by name is void for vagueness, as well as there's already I think it's a circuit court decision on this where Springfield Armory had sued over our models banned, but other people's models aren't. The listing has to go away. And they ended up prevailing on that. And I think on 14th Amendment grounds, which is hilarious. Yeah. But, with this list, it's written incredibly vague whenever you look at it. Bans the SKS and defines the SKS as an AK type rifle. Now, does that just ban the SKSs that are AK type rifles? And when asked in court about this, the state's giant brain lawyer said that, well, they have the same cartridge.
Oh.
That means they're the same gun.
So the Mini 30 is banned.
The Mini 30 is also an SKS AK type rifle.
And that funny CZ bolt action.
Yeah, it's a SK type AR rifle. K.
It's the SCAR rifle. Anyway, a SCAR that might actually be worth owning.
So as far as the registration goes, I imagine there's going to be some sort of an injunction thing going on there because it's just so ridiculous. Yeah, this law from its onset was written poorly, and then they rewrote it like 6 times. Like initially 22 long rifle, everything was exempt. And then at the last second, the last draft of the bill, last change they make was removing the exemption for 22 long rifle. And their justification was because the Tech 22 exists. Yep. In the state Senate, they start talking about how the Tech 22 and gangbangers in a notable Chicago. And so they say we have to get rid of the exemption because otherwise they could run around with Tech 22s.
Which is not exactly what you'd want.
Right, which realistically speaking would significantly hinder the intention and a capability for gang members to run around murdering each other. In fact, they should be limited to Tech 22s only.
Should be issued Tech 22.
There's a mandated Tech 22.
Yep, here you go. Don't worry about buying anything else. We got you. Here's your tech. All right, that's funny. So the big thing that's been going around this week is a FRT injunction. Yes. And which NAGR got for, the named plaintiffs and its members and everything. So it's like in this district court case, the ATF is enjoined from basically doing anything with FRTs because
And
they
no,
don't
no
meet
threat
the
letters,
criteria.
no visits, no.
Right.
You think you should turn it in? Actually,
Yeah, just no nonsense. But it's not really affirmative relief because there's a competing injunction that still prevents the main companies from selling them.
right? Rare Breed still can't sell them because
Yeah.
there's a separate case that says they can't sell them. So
Right.
this may take the heat off. Like the boiling water has been taken off of the heat, but it is still boiling water. You
Yeah.
still don't want to stick your hand in it, probably. But it limits. It certainly protects the the people who bought these things, thinking that they would be fine to just buy and then post online. They're certainly in a much safer place than they were. But Rare Breeds may be still in trouble for selling them. So
yeah. So no,
remains
we
to be
will
seen.
see. It is very interesting. Just the whole shape of this landscape is interesting, especially. Let's just say I hope these the appeals panel will be sensitive to these different interpretations when during the auto key card appeal.
Right.
That's just ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just blown away that we're so divergent, right? Where you've got this New York district court enjoining this Florida company
Under like a threat to the public law clause thing.
which is bonkers.
Yep.
And then you've got the Texas court saying, hey, we read the definition.
And FRT escapes the statutory definition of machine gun. And I think bump stocks clearly do. And now I think you should be able to own FRTs and actual machine guns, right? Because you have to get that out of the way for the YouTube troglodytes in the comments.
Yeah.
But I think FRTs are pretty darn close to the statutory definition of machine gun. It's close.
So, like,
it's closer than a
how
bump
I
stock,
described FRTs, and I will I still believe this. The FRT is what you would get if a lawyer read the definition of a machine gun and said, haha,
right.
I'm not touching you, right? Like, so it's like, it's exactly precisely not a machine gun. You know what I mean? Right. But in such a surgical way that it's still scary, you know? And then you've got the auto key card, which is a homogeneous piece of stainless steel. And so then the question becomes,
they're able to say that a credit card is designed and intended to make something a machine gun, even though it isn't, doesn't, wasn't, and whenever you cut it out, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
If they have an FRT, because the thing that ATF was relying on is they wrapped zip ties, like a certain number of magical zip ties tightened just right to an FRT, and it just ran. Where if you put an elastic thing around the trigger, an FRT does work as a machine gun. So you can pull the trigger once, and the gun continues to shoot till it runs out. So FRTs are like in a really dangerous place because of that.
But that's still stupid. Because
it is ATF stupidity, but it's consistent ATF stupidity where they've said the same thing about a shoelace, right?
Well, it's them wanting the legal word function to be pull.
To far escape what it probably should mean.
Yeah. So it's like the word function was chosen, which is a much more specific word than pull, and ATF wants it to be pull. And so they do all these things.
And the ATF has had it be pull for a long time. They do have a long precedential history of having courts agree, oh, it means pull. But
and they even administratively
codified that with the bump stock ban.
Yeah. Right? Which is absurd. Anyway, let's move on. There's more to talk about today, such as Victor Zebra Grip from 2003 to 2023. VZGrips has provided the most Florida G10 alloy that you could possibly buy. They're based in Tallahassee, Florida, which means they're good.
Based?
That's how you know that it's a good, because it has the Florida in it.
Based?
And let's see the rifle grips, because I know they've done it by now because of you guys doing the email campaign.
Oh, rifle grips. They must have just not updated. This must be an old version of the website. Yeah,
it's the old version of the website.
To be sure, you guys should go and email them and say Draco Grips now.
Draco Grips, immediately. Palms, Draco Palm Swell Grips, please.
God.
But anyway, guys, yeah, VZGrips.com. They're good grips for your gun. And you can use promotional code ThisWeek15. That's THISWEEK15. Get 15% off of your odor. So go to VZGrips.com, promotional code ThisWeek15, and email them about the AK grips. All right. Next piece of news. Smith & Wesson is a gun company.
Allegedly. They're also the reason for another one of our upcoming stories even being able to exist, but we'll cover that when we get to that. It's a good one. I think I shared this nugget of lore with you earlier this week, but anyway.
I think, yeah, sure. Anyway, they were based in Massachusetts, which for those of you guys who have had the pleasure of never having to go to hell, that's what that is. So they moved to Tennessee, right? Smith & Wesson celebrates new headquarters opening in gun-friendly Tennessee, which is ironic.
Yeah, because Bill Lee lives there.
Yeah, because Bill Lee, their governor, is like kind of
desperate to make a gun control happen.
Yeah, he wants it so bad. So yeah, they had a little party. Yeah, new 650,000 square foot headquarters as part of a $125 million relocation plan. Oh, that's interesting, I guess.
I've seen a couple other gun companies either making or planning or signaling similar moves, because California is full of guns.
Bottom to Arkansas.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, Mr. Smith, Mr. Mark Smith, which, wow.
That's
he
funny.
said, from where I stand, the next 170 years of Smith & Wesson are looking pretty good. Something special here in Tennessee, except he didn't sound like that. He sounded like a coastal northerner. But yeah, he cited a welcome regulatory environment and a close collaboration with the Tennessee state government as a crucial piece of the plan to relocate because, of course, the pork barrel was pumped.
Oh, I see.
Smith, come here.
Come here. Give me a tax credit, please.
We'll give you really good rates.
Our cops will all buy your guns.
Yeah, we won't tax the hell out of you at first.
No more Glocks.
Yeah,
Shields for us.
Oh God. So yeah, that's great. And speaking of which, guys, this is a little quick one. If you are in the gun industry, if you are in FFL, if you run a whatever, you should go to fflpaymentprocessing.com because you are probably getting hosed on your payment rates. It's fflpaymentprocessing.com. Free rate analysis. Just put in your information, your bugle there. They will look at your current credit card processing rates, tell you what you're paying, and then you can see how much you could save by switching to a company that is focused on firearms clients, so you're never going to have to worry about getting deplatformed. So go to fflpaymentprocessing.com and smash get rates. And harass your local FFLs to switch to it too. Yeah. Next up, this is really interesting, right? So how many of you guys out there, raise your hand if you know the little UTM rounds?
I know them. They're for shooting your buddies with.
So you know what's funny is we used to have a bunch of these, and you know what I would use them for?
Shooting buddies.
When I would, because they have that funny little piston in the base.
Yeah.
So like if I would be building a blowback gun, and I would test them indoors by using a UTM round, because if the UTM round cycles, it doesn't work. So that it was really funny to put in a Sten. But yeah, so these things are funny. They're it's effectively a really mean paintball.
Yeah, that you put in an actual gun. So the idea is you can have your actual duty gun or whatever,
right?
And train with your gun set up the way you have it, but it's not going to kill the guy you shoot it at.
Yeah, ordinarily.
Ideally.
So the UTM company has announced an end of civilian sales because of the ATF. And at first I'm like, why? Right? I didn't realize these things are made in the United Kingdom. They are made in England.
Gross. I don't want 'em.
Allegedly, it says their state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in the United Kingdom, UK. Now listen, number one, state-of-the-art, don't believe you. Nothing built in England.
It leaks the most oil. It's state of the art.
Yeah, no, like I do not believe you, because why would no? Two, I immediately thought to myself, that's why they're so expensive.
Yep.
And three, I was like, well, what is the ground? Like, why? Why are they refusing their imports? And, you read the letter that UTM put out. They're not taking it very, they're pissed about it, but they're not going to do anything about it. Their stance is basically, we're just going to sell the cops and the government now, and we really hope they put it back. So kind of the community is left to wonder, what is the reason they were denying their import permits for U.S. civilian sales? And then when you think about it, it's because ammunition still has to have a sporting use requirement when you import it. And so the question is, did ATF decide that training ammo is like necessarily paramilitary and not sporting?
Right. And this is conjecture, but I think, it's the only conjecture, at least to me, that makes any sense.
Well, the other one that could make sense is
something so weird.
The other one that could make sense is the bullet weight.
And plastic construction makes them think, oh, it's armor piercing, but geez.
Yeah, could it like possibly in a hyper deluxe technical way meet the armor piercing definition? That's the other conjectural idea I have.
Right.
Yeah, but because like what are they considering the jacket? Blah blah blah. But yeah, so that and again, it's conjecture, but it's got to be one of those two. Right. Because they're still letting them import it, but only for sales to the government. So that means it has to fall into one of those things where only the government is allowed to have the ammunition. And so it's either non-sporting, which is something that like you just ordinarily don't deal with, or AP.
Right.
So.
And so the funny thing about non-sporting, tying back into the previous story with Smith & Wesson, the whole sporting use thing, I did a deep dive on this. So the explanation that I had found is that Smith & Wesson had then Senator JFK introduce the language that would eventually become the sporting use exemption in the then drafts of the Gun Control Act. So in the early 60s, the Gun Control Act, under a different name, I believe, was floating around as far as nationally licensing sellers of firearms, limiting and or eliminating home sales of them, and restricting imports of guns because there were so many cheap surplus guns coming into the country that Remington and Smith & Wesson and Colt wanted imports banned or restricted as much as they could, because they can't make guns as cheap as somebody in a country that lost World War II was able to make guns. So the Smith & Wesson, through their lobbying, had JFK introduce this language, or introduce the bill that had the language that would say that ATF can deny importation of things that are not sporting use. And of course, sporting use would go through all sorts of statutory and Administrative Procedures Act related redefinitions and interpretations, some of which were actually done through the APA and some of which weren't. And so it certainly expanded far beyond the scope that I'm sure Smith & Wesson or JFK or anybody at the time thought it would. Right. But it's kind of funny because that's, I've always wondered where did sporting use come from? Like, who came up with this insane standard? Well, it was Smith & Wesson. You have them to thank. And so then I don't feel bad whenever Hillary Clinton made them put funny little safety holes in their revolvers. You get to shit in the bed that you slept in. Yeah. Or whatever.
Thanks. I hate Smith & Wesson even more now. Go back north.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Get out of here. Yeah. So yeah, no, we did talk about that. That is funny. Speaking of that is funny, it's MAF Corporation, guys. MAF Corp, unique, creative, epic. At MAF Corp, we like guns. We also like wind chimes. Lots of people sell wind chimes made of other stuff like metal that wasn't a firearm first. We decided to make some pretty epic wind chimes out of metal that was destined for hard labor in the gun fields. You are welcome, metal. You no longer have to do that. So the big thing is the Set Me El Amigo Verde chime set. it's really worth checking out. Also, MP5 sets have been restocked. So guys, check out maf-arms.com, promotional code FRN. That's Foxtrot Romeo November, and you will get a discount. And you're really going to want to look at that Amigo Verde kit because it
makes your mouth feel good.
It is a chewy buoy. It is a chewy buoy. All right, next up, this is I just gave up. I just gave away the story. I showed it on the screen. I'm such a failure. I'm such a bad podcaster. So yeah, this is about what's her name? New Mexico Governor Lujuan Grisham.
Is she still around?
Yeah. So, you know, she got sued like every which way, but as it's narrowing now, a federal judge refused to block the wholesale abrogation of carry rights in New Mexico parks and playgrounds. This is in, that the largest urban area of New Mexico where she asserted this. But yeah, so that's interesting. And it will be interesting because this is all in the category of Bruin response laws, where Bruin's core holding was, hey, you have a right to carry a handgun out of the home. And so every little shit smear, little snivelly rat-faced politician is like, yeah, but what about here? And I mean rat-faced in the negative way, not the cool way.
Not in this. They don't spin.
Yeah, they're the little snivelly little shits.
They spin horizontal or vertically, not horizontal.
Yeah, they
trust them.
Wrong. But yeah, federal judge cleared the way Wednesday for enforcement of a public health order that suspends the right to carry guns at public parks and playgrounds in New Mexico's largest metro area. The order came from U.S. District Judge David Urias, rejecting a question from gun rights advocates to block temporary firearms restrictions as legal challenges move forward. Marks a victory for Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and her advocacy for temporary gun restrictions in response to recent notable events around the state that left children not the same as they were before the events. I'm YouTube censoring and somehow making it sound worse. Yeah, so what do you think?
The fact that any judge would see a politician use executive authority to abrogate almost in its entirety, like a core tenet of a right, like it would be like if a politician said people are making up information that's informing people, therefore you can't use the internet. Like if they did that's facially violative of the First Amendment. And I understand that some judges want to do like the tit for tat down the line, and will be cautious and see if maybe if any of the, like they define the internet as everything except a desktop PC made before 1998 in your home. And then go through the list of like, is a modern laptop really a First Amendment protected thing? Speaking on a modern laptop? You don't have to do that. You can just assume the whole thing is bunk, is probably what should be done. That executive authority doesn't extend to, especially because it's the whole crisis that they're responding to isn't like Hurricane Katrina. It's not like they're saying we don't want you carrying guns because you're probably stealing them from people's homes that got destroyed. It's a made-up crisis, and it's just somebody trying to restrict people's rights for headlines. In fact, she's pretty much just admitted that. So it's just ridiculous, and I wish judges would be a little bit stronger in the spine when it comes.
Yeah, especially because the grounds, it was likelihood of success on the merits, right? And like denying an injunction based on likelihood of success of the merits is a pretty aggressive statement, because it's basically the judge saying, I think you're going to lose. Like the ultimate lawsuit. There are other grounds in which it can be denied. But that's usually where these things are.
I think that they're going to lose on like parks and playgrounds. And I don't know.
Parks are pretty big, man. Parks make up a lot of land mass. And that's one of the big things in the Maryland shall issue litigation, which is the best Second Amendment advocacy group, because it's not possible for them to use your money for retarded purposes. it's an all volunteer organization, put together a map of just how much of Montgomery County's carry ban, which all of these things are kind of related to, and it's like a quarter of the whole county.
Yeah, of the land area, and that's like all the populated places are completely blocked off.
Yeah, and by parkland. So parks are like a crazy thing. You know, you might be thinking, "Oh, I'm never around parks." You might not have even thought about what is considered parkland. You should look at some GIS data, kind of like we did. But yeah, so this is a bunch of weird stuff going on. We'll see what's going on. Speaking of weird garbage, that's trash. The ONESHOT GS2 never attached.
You know, these guys were creaming themselves whenever the brace ban came down. Like, oh, we fucking got them now. Oh, our technology is worth $1 million. And they see the injunction in the brace case, and they're like, oh, well, $130 you can buy one. $130 for the worst possible version of a pistol brace.
Yeah. So this is
already is the worst version.
For you audio people, this is the ONESHOT never attached, never miss pistol system, which is basically a little bugless that abuts to the web of your handgun, you know, basically where the web of your hand would go, and you wrap your thumb around it so that you can shoulder the handgun. And the way it's designed, it definitely looks like it would cause quite a few different handguns to not function.
Yeah.
But listen, their slogan is that when it comes to saving lives, accuracy is everything, which is why you want to have your handgun haphazardly, wobbly,
attached
secured
to something that's like 5 times harder to carry with you than just carrying a handgun in the first. I don't get it.
Yeah, it does look like it could be a nice little meal plate.
It's big and cumbersome enough that you could just carry a VZ61. Just carry a Scorpion, put a stock on it. It'll be okay.
One of our friends made this image.
That's about right.
It comes to saving lives, accuracy is ever. Yeah, I think that's stupid as hell, and it's $129.
You'd be close to just making your own VZ61 at that point.
I don't get it. And they're not the first company to do this either. So like back in the 60s, there was a company that sold the 60s and 70s, except it had a screw and it clamped into the gun. And like, it was funny because after a while they started coming with a little ticket, like a little, I forgot what the thing's called, but I've seen several of them. It came with a little card that said, "Warning, installing the screw may make your gun GCA regulated. If you don't want to do that, do not install the screw."
It's Carnicon had an episode on this where they tape a buttstock to their shoulder. Mm-hmm. And then have an AR pistol that's just got, I guess this was in the age before pistol braces that would mate up with, round pistol tubes would work. So it's just like a round pistol tube, like with no accoutrement to actually mount to a stock. But then because the stock was taped to his shoulder, he could then put the pistol tube in there. And he was at, some sort of SHOT Show or event where the ATF had a booth, and he was trying to talk to them with his stock taped to his shoulder, like asking them, would this be an SBR actually? It's just the worst version of something that somebody else did for a joke. So
right. Yeah, it's terrible.
Carry a VZ61, idiot.
And you know what I have that I actually like?
Draco.
I do have, I actually have several of those, but the USW, I have the B&T one with the stock.
Yep.
And I really like that gun.
No.
It's
I don't allow it.
You don't allow it?
I don't allow it.
What do you mean?
Because it's B&T and that's based on a bad gun.
Oh, CZ75?
Yeah.
Wait, you're now of the position the CZ75 is a bad gun? I thought that was my take.
Oh, I've never really liked it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. But it does have a great trigger. And I like the way the USW kind of shakes out, the B&T one specifically. The 320 package, wow, that's dog shit. But I haven't played with the Glock one, but I do like the way the B&T one shook out. I just like the way you just got everything there in a little package, and you press the little thing, and the little hockey puck slings out, and you can uncomfortably put it in your shoulder. I think it's nice. Speaking of things that are nice, for Patriots, guys, we've got. You listen, they've changed up how the 4Patriots works. So you don't got to worry about the code no more. You just go to 4patriots.com/FRN to see the current deals that are just for you. Listen, when things go sideways, will you be prepared? Some people are concerned they might have to go for a long time without electricity or even food.
That's power distribution in the United States.
To the 4patriots.com.
There was a great debate at the time
you can use
about whether alternating current or direct current would be the correct way to transfer power over long
distances. My favorite is 4Patriots.
Alternating current is the one that went out. However, direct current
power generator 2000
has its advantages as far as
it uses the endless free power of the sun to power lights.
What they ended up doing
medical
was
equipment,
having alternating current step down from direct current for transfer. Because of this, there's these things known as power substations, where the signal, if you will, of power is moderated.
They even have kits with real meat. You can get actual meat in them, and the power's out. No worries, just boil water over a fire simmer and serve. Enjoy a hot meal and stay safe in a crisis.
Individuals in California,
more smart people than ever are finding 4Patriots. Over 2 million customers. You might even have seen them on television.
Because
I had the folks at 4Patriots set up a special page for you at 4patriots.com/FRN. The listeners of this podcast can see this week's discounts and deals before they go away. Go to 4patriots.com/FRN, but hurry, these deals won't last long. Save more and get peace of mind by now going to buy the website.
Artifacts are in fact damaged by a 50 caliber rifle. These transformers will overheat and melt down, which could cause an outage to your grid.
It's possible.
Allegedly.
Poor audio listeners. All right, next up, new Connecticut. What is Connecticut? What is it? Is it a type of Roblox? Is it a new Bionicle? I don't know.
Blocks.
But the new Connecticut gun law goes into effect on Sunday. Bans open carry, prohibits bulk purchasing. So you and me, we're screwed. Let's take a look at this law. Expand safe storage, because they were one of the first people who did it, I think. Yeah, look at this. I almost said a bad word. Getting too look at this. Why you talk out the side of your mouth like that, Mayor Luke Bronin? What's your deal? Hartford, that used to be a gun city before you broke it, and now you don't have any jobs left. Yep. Yeah, no person shall carry a pistol or revolver except when they're within their house. No person carry a firearm with intent to display except in your house. God, what terrible laws. Let's see. Yeah, that's Connecticut, and then we have another state law update. It's Colorado. They decided that New York is the coolest state, and they decided to pass laws to make it easier to sue the gun industry. And what do you think of that?
Suing gun industry is good. Sue them all. That's going to stop them. It'll stop a gun violence if you can sue them.
So these will go into effect October 1st. These are just common sense legislations.
Of course.
For one, 3-day waiting period, because we know how many tragedies were caused by the time to crime.
Right. Because there's a funny thing with waiting periods. The only thing that it's ever actually been shown to do is reduce suicide by firearm.
Stop saying the S word. It's YouTube. So mad.
By people jumping into lava on their own by firearm.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does something to that, although it's not a significant number.
Right. And then these people then go and find other ways to jump into lava.
Find other ways to leave the server. But so, yeah, the 3-day waiting period, that's a reasonable common sense law. and it makes it easier for victims of gun violence and their families to sue gun manufacturers and dealers, which is not something that, federal law specifically. The PLCAA was such a bad deal.
It's going to be really interesting whenever a case to that effect ends up before the Supreme Court. I hope it's soon too.
Yeah. There's another bill that regulates ghost guns in Colorado was passed, signed into law. That takes effect January 1st, so we got a little longer than that. But yeah, so there was a challenge. The waiting period law was immediately challenged by Rocky Mountain gun owners. They're not the Oyster people in August, but the federal judge declined to issue an injunction because of, this article says, because the group hadn't demonstrated it had been harmed, which is like deeply retarded, because it's like axiomatic that even if they just scratch your right for a second, like if they just go scratch, that's considered irreparable harm. So that judge was on some different. The group dropped the lawsuit, but their director told the Denver Post this week that he planned to purchase a firearm after the law takes effect, trigger the statutory delay, and sue again.
Okay, fine.
That is kind of big.
Oh, I lack standing? Okay.
I'm going to the gun store.
I'll buy your finest clock switch, please, sir.
Oh, you can't sell it to me? Sign this contract saying you would sell it to me, but for this law.
And have a nice day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. When Polis signed the bills in the spring, he said they would make Colorado safer. It's reasonable. And that residents deserve to be safe in our communities, in our schools, in our grocery stores, in our nightclubs. Which, okay.
They should pass a law that says that people get to be safe there instead. That law might actually work. A law that says if you're there, then you're safe. That's what the law should say. If you're in one of these places, we promise you're safe.
So yeah, the gun industry liability law, it removed state law immunity, which until now, gun violence victims and their family members who filed the lawsuit had to, and the lawsuit failed, like under the PLCAA,
right?
They had to pay the legal fees. It was a fee shifting provision, so they took out the fee shifting,
right,
and the specific state immunities. So it's like, it doesn't actually make it easier to sue, but
just means there's probably less skin in the game whenever you end up.
Well, no, it makes it easier to use lawsuits as a harassment tool in Colorado. So that's certainly going to happen. So cool. But yeah, so that's Colorado. Yeah, what a
Colorado, bro.
What a state. Who would live there?
I don't know.
Like probably some weird Sean Heron person.
Yeah. I bet he doesn't even shoot groundhogs at 1,000 yards with a 22.
Yeah, what a loser. Anyway, last up, guys, it's Patriot Patch Company. Custom designed patches, apparel, and accessories for any freedom-loving individual. I usually keep their patch on their microphone, but Sam cleaned my room, and now... Wait. Oh, she did clean them, and now they're right here. Wow. But I don't have the newest one, but it's okay, because look at this. This one's kind of cool. It's a reindeer, which is now going to be coming back up to, relevant in the coming months. Patriot Patch, they're good because they get banned from all of the social media websites. Only
just
people
like Kanye.
Yeah, just like Kanye. Only people with good ideas get banned off of that. And guys, we got a code for you, Twig10, TWIG10. That's how they know that I'm doing my job and sending you guys to the website. If you like patches, join the Patch a Month Club. Look at the current October exclusive. I haven't gotten this one yet. I'm actually excited about this one. Sam's probably going to try to steal it. It's a pirate with an AR-15. That's fun. Nobody taking me AR-15. Haha, funny. It's a nice little thing to show up when you especially when you don't know what it's going to be. I kind of ruin it for myself by reading these ads before I get them. But when it shows up and you open it, it's like, oh, it's a fun little gibbity gab, goofy little fun things. That's promotional code TWIG10, TWIG10. Check them out. All right. Is there anything else? Any last words?
I don't think I do have any last words before I walk the plank.
Good. Well, everyone, it's good to be with you. Thank you for coming. And as always, we will see you next time. Also, give us money. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.